Call the meeting to order today of the Board of Sewer and Water Commission for the town of Walpole. We're meeting here at the E.J. Delaney Treatment Plant at 6:30 p.m. on March 11th. We have a posted agenda, and the first item on that agenda is reviewing minutes of February 26th, 2024. And if the commissioners would take a look, there's one thing in there. Mr. Mishra, you had asked on the third page for an itemization regarding the Meyerlight Street pump station. Could you review that? Is that the correct chronology of what happened there?
Number going to 7 million for water connection, yep. Yeah, so we were never told like 6.625 million was a separate estimate given to us. So this breakup was read by Mr. Matson, so I think that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any other corrections or additions? I entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of February 26th.
Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. We have an appointment at 6:45, we're a little early, so we can jump to the superintendent's status report. Scott?
So since the board last met, we've had no lotteries, we've been in good shape in that regard. MTUs have been, no major issues on those as well. The pilot program for the metering system is continuing to send information and to beat the software outages. System running very well, and we have more training scheduled next week for staff. The annual statistical report is due again, it'll be April 8th, and it's on the way to progress. Around the same time frame, we've got the water management policy, which is due around mid-April, that we've notified that we got all the requirements that's in place. You know that? 15,000 minutes.
You explained the water management policy is due to what? To the state?
Water restrictions. Yeah, you have to notify them that if you're doing what's in your water management permit, that you set the seasonal restrictions.
Yeah.
Based on the project.
Okay. Go ahead. Mr. Fasenelli?
On the pilot program with the Beacon software system, what percent of the system is installed in now?
We have 14 units that are on the software.
And what percent is that of the system? That's 14, 1/4?
14, right.
Out of 5,000 something?
Out of about 8,700.
8,700,
Yeah, it's
okay.
infinitesimal as far as percentage.
Okay, so we're not too far along.
No, it's to give us an idea if this is the system that we want to go with. There are different areas of town, different setups, like some of this latest ones in the pit. So just basically putting it through its paces, running the software, and making sure that if this is the direction we want to go.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, this is to Mr. Abbott. On the annual statistical
report? Yes.
report, are we in for any surprises or shocks on that?
No,
Thank you.
I haven't seen it.
I
know.
thought you did it.
No, I don't do it. They do it. I look at it, though, but I do have a question for you, Scott. Assuming we go with this company with the pilot there, how would we implement that? Would we install them ourselves? The one who installed mine says he does 5 a day, should go 8,000, whatever, will be old and gray, wouldn't it? Or would we hire somebody, and how long would they take to, I mean, is this something we...
The quickest way to do it would be to have it contracted out.
Right.
Run the credit in-house without anything else.
Yeah, so do we have any idea as to what that costs in addition to the, or is it when you buy the meters, there's two price, one, they drop the meters off at your door, and the other, they say, give me a list of people and I'll start,
No.
and we'll have them done in whatever.
The biggest challenge is going to be the scheduling, getting
Right.
the properties. But you're still looking at altogether around $3 million.
Okay. And any idea of how long it would, I'm just thinking, there must be some extra work that the office has to do, because we got two systems, and am I missing something? And
Yeah, optimistically, it would be less than a year. Sharon was something similar, and they had 6,500 accounts. And they went relatively smooth as far as installation, things on their end.
yeah, okay.
Some of the integration was a little touchy, but
Was that 6 months? How long did it,
I think it was a couple of years ago. Not exactly.
no, how long did it take them to implement?
I think it was around a year. Like, you confront the time. Like,
Yeah, what will be your preference, like doing over 1 year or spreading it out to like 2 to 3 years?
if we can do it in a year, we do it in a year. But I don't want to see it also go to rushing.
Okay, so,
The scheduling is about the scheduling.
yeah, that's what, yeah, even if you call everyone, I don't think they're
Yeah.
going to schedule.
You could have 20 guys out there ready to jump in there and get going. You don't have really get the homes, you know.
Yeah.
Will we
So,
hire summer help for that?
No.
I would think that you would want it done sooner than later, just because it will interrupt the folks in the office running with two systems. Can't avoid it, but why have them, have to deal with that for, 2, 3 years, as opposed to let's just get it done. If it takes a year, it takes a year, but rather than, really lengthening that transition period.
but from the administration point of view, the meter reads, are they looking every day, or it's like only when they're running the bills?
It'd more likely to be every day as far as the reads coming in.
Okay.
At least.
So what will be the impact of having two systems of meter readings?
Well, there'll be an overlap while it's transitioned over.
Okay.
And that's one of the biggest concerns, is making sure that there's no disruptions.
There's no disruption
But
to
they're
the,
Yeah, they're two separate systems.
to the billing system,
Yeah.
isn't it? To the billing, okay.
Right. And that's one of the things we want to look at is integrating the new software into Munis.
Yep.
And that's one of the challenges that some have.
So
How to
that
integrate.
you should be doing in the pilot phase, isn't it? You want to try
Yeah,
that?
as far as if the decision is made to go forward,
Mhm.
the best course of action is probably to have an outside company integrate with Munis.
They're not doing it, the company which is supplying this
The
meters?
meter company,
Yeah,
not directly, no.
okay.
All right,
Yeah, that's-
we still have a little time here. We could get to the,
I was abstaining on the minutes, by the way.
you abstain on the minutes.
I wasn't here.
Okay. Terry, can you,
Yep, I'll change it.
thank you.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to, I guess we can look at 241 Norfolk
Yep.
Street? Any, I'm trying to recall, there was a question about the, did you have some answers for us, Scott, on the inquiry about this?
What was the particular question?
I don't know, there's something about the, was it the access to the building, or,
If you're talking about the turnaround, that was addressed. You're talking about the fire trucks turning around? I believe that's addressed on these plans.
yeah. Did we get asked about the hydrants, or has that already been approved?
I believe we let the fire chief tell where he wants the hydrants.
Yeah. Well, anybody have any issues or questions about this? We looked at it
Want to take a
once.
look at this?
Well, we looked at it once before. I don't know.
Anybody want to be refreshed? Commissioner Fisher,
Nope, I'm
you
all
want to
set.
take a look at this?
I'm all set, thank you.
I'm all set.
Okay.
Okay. So, What are we?
No comment.
Yeah, no comments, read and noted. Still no. All right, the next thing up is the 48 Millbrook Road. Residents will be in attendance. Hi. Okay. This is correspondence 1. So if you want to come to the microphone and
Ready?
sure.
So thank you all for having us. My name is Matt Sherris, my wife Erica Sherris. We're here to dispute the charges for our water bill. I came in to pay my taxes at the beginning of the quarter and also pay the outstanding water bill. And as I was paying it, the clerk basically said, geez, that's a real high water bill. You may want to dispute that. And I said, yeah, I thought it was really high too. So I walked up the hall, or upstairs, and sure enough, talked to the woman at the front desk. She said that she would look into the bill. That does look really high. Maybe it's an inaccurate water meter reading. So went through our history, and based off quarter over quarter, year over year, this was the highest bill we ever received. And what was most alarming for us was we didn't use our irrigation system. The bill goes from 8/11 to 11/11. This past summer was a very wet summer, so I'm very cautious with using our irrigation system because it is on the water meter, so I don't ever use it unless we really have to use it. So from 8/11 to 11/11, we use it 0 times, and then for the whole summer, we probably only use it 3 or 4 times. So the bill is close to $3,200, and then the past 2 years, 3 years, year over year, that same time period was $800, $700, and $1,200. Took a little further. One of the gentlemen we spoke with in the water department said you should check your toilets. 9 times out of 10, that's what happens. You drop a dye into the tank, and if it bleeds through, then you know you have a leak or it's running. Sure enough, we did that in all our toilets. There's no leaks in toilets, no leaks in the sinks, no running faucets. So it's a really expensive bill. What else do we have here? We have my wife and I and 3 kids. We shower every day, but our kids only, take a bath or shower every other day. Sorry, kids. And that's really. And we compared a couple neighbors with same houses, similar houses, similar families, and their bills in the same neighborhood, same street, and their bills were $400 and $1,000 respectively. So, did I miss anything?
Yeah, well, when we called, we were originally told don't compare to anyone because that doesn't make sense. Everyone's different, and we completely understand everyone's different. But why would we not compare to a neighbor on the same street with the same amount of kids, same size house, same size yard? So we did. We reached out to a few, and none of them. Everyone I know was completely in shock that our bill was almost $3,200 for that session. Quarter.
That same time period, yeah.
Same time period.
Yeah.
I don't know if they come quarterly or whatever, but so. Like you said, one of them was like $1,100, one of them was $400. They have the same size family. They both have irrigation systems. One of them even has a pool. So just things aren't adding up, and everyone we talk to will say the same. Like we have a cousin who pays maybe $75 quarterly for their bill. They don't live in this town, but they live the next town over. But it just doesn't make sense. So we just wanted to have research into it. I know you guys came the other day and you took out our water system, our meter, because it was one of the old ones, we're told, that we're one of the few, I don't know how accurate it is, but on the phone I was told we're one of the few to have the old system. And so it runs different than all the other systems in the town. And all the other systems in the town, you guys get alert if it goes above 125 a day. So is it 1.25 or 125, whatever it is, but from what I've heard is that you will call the homeowner if it goes above the 125 to say something's going on, maybe you have a leak, something's going on, you should check it out. Our average for these 3 months was $173 a day, and we never got a call. No one even called us after the bill came out. The bill came out, we paid the bill, no one called us. So that's very alarming. We're not quite sure why we're not getting communication.
Yeah,
And
so-
then, I think that's about it. So we just wanted to bring it up. Someone came the other day and replaced the meter with one of those brand new ones that, I think we can download an app or whatever. We just got the letter in the mail today. So, and I think as of them replacing it, now our average is like 20 a day.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something off, and we're just asking for a remedy, like situation plan, some way.
Well, I think moving forward, the plan sounds good, so we can look at the water and see what's going on. It's just the $3,200 for 90 days of water. It's just, it doesn't add up. The numbers don't add up based off our usage and what we did. So that's why we're here. We want to dispute those charges. I'm happy with what the town's done in replacing the water meter with the new sophisticated meter, and thank you for doing that. But $3,200 for 90 days of water where we didn't use our irrigation and we did nothing abnormal with our water system seems extremely excessive. So.
Bill?
Yes, I just have a question, Scott. They have a pit meter, so we had to go out and read it every day. So we do have, if you're not with a pit meter, where we have to go and read it, and the system is sending readings, we would detect, other than in the summer, if we saw 125 cubic feet in a day, or 250 during the summer. But if it's a pit meter, there's nothing being sent, so
Right.
it has to go. So that explains why.
But when
you
they
didn't-
went, it was over that amount, average.
Yeah.
Right, so, but I went back and looked at the reading since 2019, and in the summer of 2019, between July 30th and October 22nd of 19, so that would have been in the summer, you used 13,169, and that's the previous 9 months. The two before that were 2,300, 2,700. It jumps up during the summertime. Then it drops down to the 3,000, a couple of 3,000. We get to the summer of 2020, May 14th through August 27th, 14,000. Then, going down to, they're in the middle of 2021, it's sort of covered too, but the readings were higher. If you combined them, they would have been probably around 11,000. May 2022 to August 22, 14,000. Again indicating that sprinklers were being used. This past year, August 12th through November 12th, it was at 15,000. And the pattern fits that sprinklers were being used. You have 1 meter. So, the fact, if it would seem to me that if there was something wrong with the meter, if it wasn't going out into the irrigation system, the other 3/4 would also be high. So it seems, what would seem to be pointing to is something in your irrigation system that ran, but somehow it stops during runs.
I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but but we didn't use the irrigation. I literally unplugged it from the wall.
Yeah.
So it's literally unplugged. There's no way it can go on. It's not there, and I mowed my own lawn. There's no puddles in the lawn. There's not like a leak going on. It wasn't run at all. So this past, I'm only talking about this past summer, and I still paid it. But all the other summers, that's why I was expecting a bill for like $700 because we did not use the thing. So it makes me kind of question the other years too. Like, are those estimated? But I won't dispute those for now because we're not here for that. But I'm very concerned about that bill.
Well, it is, I'm looking at what you're saying, and I see how you would say, okay, it's a pattern, which would bring us back to the high, like the earliest high one back in 2019, which averaged over the 125. How come we weren't contacted then? Why were we not contacted when it, 8/20/20? Like, there's a few, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are extremely high and kind of don't match,
Were
right?
they
So why
always
were
on the
we-
pit meter?
So,
Yeah. So if you're on the pit meter, signals aren't being sent like every, the other end of the system you have now. Then the only time we see anything is when it comes time to read the meter, someone has to go out, physically read the meter and bring the information in. But I mean, I can see, I don't see a great difference between 13,169 to 14,038. 14,931, 15,580. You know, it's not a wide swing that would indicate something. And the other issue that you only have one meter, and like just before the 15,000, you were 2,450, 2,214, 2,685. I mean, somehow, something's happening in those summer periods, which really does lend itself. Now, you say you unplugged the thing.
Correct.
But that wouldn't solve,
So,
you'd have to shut the water line off. The plugging doesn't do anything. If you had a leak in a head or a pipe out in the yard somewhere, you have no way to shut that off.
Right, but so I get it checked, all 22 heads, every single head gets checked in the spring. In the fall, the whole system gets blown out professionally, not by me, and I can have my irrigation guy come, and he's very meticulous about every single head, and if he has to replace one, I have to pay it. So I'm happy to bring Jeff over here, he's the one that put the system in, there's no leaks. And again, I'm not disputing the other ones for now, and I really don't want to go down that road, but we did not use the water. I mow the lawn every single week, sometimes more than once a week, because we had so much rain this year. I did not turn the thing on, definitely not after 8/11. And it doesn't add up. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense to me.
When they removed the old meter, do you guys have that? Are you testing it?
Yeah.
Okay, any
We don't have the
findings?
results back yet. We have been sent to the testing company.
Okay.
Okay,
We do not have the results back as of today.
okay. No, we just wanted to bring it, like, we're not pointing the finger, we just want to bring it to your attention, and it's shocking to us, it's shocking to everyone we talk to. What percentage of Walpole is at that usage level or higher?
I think that we have probably around 400 who are on sewer, so they have a separate meter. And then, like up in your neighborhood, I was there on Sunday, I always try to look at wherever somebody's coming. There's no sewer up there, so all the water, whether it's going into irrigation system or in the house, is going through that same meter.
So someone similar to us, on
Yeah,
average, are we like in the top 5% of the bill, like usage?
No, definitely not.
No.
I mean, when we see people who are using, and you have a large lot, a full acre lot, if it's someone who is irrigating, that's not out of the
All right,
question.
that's what I'm saying. So again,
Yeah.
we didn't irrigate, and I don't see any leaks. I understand where sorry.
Yeah, I have a question to the superintendent. One of the bill just before that November bill is estimated. So how that the billing happens there? How did they estimate that reading?
So the original issue was with the MTUs, even though they were replaced, they weren't getting the readings. So as far as estimating, I'm not sure if that wasn't a read or the reason for the estimate.
Okay, so can we guess that between the two billing cycle, the meter reads were not spread evenly?
You'd pick that up in the next read too, though.
Which is fine. Like, on 11/12, the reading may be correct, but 8/12, it was estimated. So that means that one of the bill will be higher because of the tiered structure.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So was any difference calculated, assuming that they are using the same water over the 6 months period? I think we should check that part, average it out. I think they will have some benefits in reducing the cost.
Yeah, we can look at the estimate.
Yeah, because the bill you have one bill which was estimated, that means.
Right, yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah.
So we have a tiered water system. So in 3 months, if you're using a lot, the price is going to spike up.
Yep.
But if it was spread over 6 months, then you may have some savings.
Yep.
So that's what we're trying to find out, and we may have to check with the billing department and see whether it was spread out,
Yeah.
correctly. Or
Yeah, I mean, if you guys can work with us on helping out, reduce
so-
the bill, that I would be willing to have a
Sure.
reasonable
So in
conversation.
general, I think the readings, when they get on 11/12, that will be final reading. Like, none of us have authority to say that, okay, we can't charge you for that water thing. What we can see is that look at your previous billing and see whether it can be spread out to a different, throughout the 6 months period when it was estimated.
Yeah, and again, that number, it just doesn't make any sense to me, so. 'cause
Yeah.
we didn't
No,
use
that
it.
makes sense. I mean, we
Yeah.
just wanted to bring it to your
Yeah.
attention and get some help, point us in the right direction, help us figure out what happened, and
Yeah, and I think that,
maybe find out when it comes back from the
Yeah.
testing, what they say.
yeah, and the remedy moving forward, we'll obviously have, I think that will be, we'll have immediate access to looking at the numbers, so.
I'm not sure, have you had a chance to look at the app and see that?
We just got the letter today. We just got a letter from you folks today saying you can download the app, so we
So
haven't
I
had a chance.
have looked at it and the ratings for me have been
Yeah, good, okay. So what are the next steps? Will somebody contact me? Yeah,
Let's get the test results.
We'll get the test results and we
Okay.
can see if that's deficient or there's a problem with the meter, then
yep, and then also.
address it that way.
Yep.
The other thing, I mean, just as a backdrop, we appreciate you coming in.
Sure.
Basically, we've been going through this. Water's becoming more expensive,
Sure,
and technology has now become available where people can individually be more responsible for
Sure.
monitoring
yeah,
and detecting a problem. 10,000 households, we can't really babysit everybody's
Of course.
water meter every day.
Yeah.
But, so you've come in, you're kind of an example of why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
And converting.
yeah.
So,
Makes sense.
and the younger people seem to be much more interested in knowing data and knowing specifics.
Sure,
So, we appreciate that, and hopefully, you can understand too, there are many things that happen, we hear these things, a toilet, believe it or not, a chain can come loose, or a stopper can get on an angle and run your way for 2 weeks and go crazy, and somebody will come back and hit the toilet again, it'll fall in place, and well, what happened, who knows?
Yeah.
Well, the water ran for 2 weeks when you were on vacation, and no one knew it. I mean, it's anomalies. So we try to help it wherever we can,
Yeah.
within the parameters of the law and the regulations to help you. So let's see what comes of
Yeah.
this, and at least going forward, hopefully you'll be able to.
I think with a good remedy moving forward, that'll work. It's just, this last one was a big shocker, so appreciate y'all listening to
Okay,
listen to
great.
it.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. Nice to see you.
Take care.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, our appointment, we have, let's see, 6:45, Mr. Truax.
Good evening.
I'm gonna have to step out. I'm gonna turn this over to Mr. Mishra to run the meeting, and I'll go in the other room.
You don't want to stay and watch?
So this is for a comment on Lincoln State plan.
Yes, I'm going to stay.
Do you have any questions? You want to
I'd
see
like
the
to
plan?
just see,
Okay.
I mean, we had this done once before. Is it the same?
It's the same plan.
Okay.
So this has been, it's been appealed. We've been to court. This is a remand back to the planning board. And what's been done is, the plan hasn't changed, the roads haven't changed, the networks
That
haven't
was
changed.
my question.
The only thing that's changed is about from here to the cul-de-sac, and then from here coming up, this area's been raised for help. Part of the reason for the denial
Right.
was,
The big
the gravel removal. So we've maximized our slope coming in here, and then we've raised this road to be similar. And so this whole section in here has been raised up about 5 or 6 feet from the original plan. And that's what's going back to the planning board.
So is the water lines unchanged?
Doesn't touch.
Looping out to Deerfield?
Nothing's changed, all the same. Completely the same.
That was,
The only thing that's changed is that grade's been raised. So that's it. Yeah, it's pretty, and really, I think my understanding of the whole thing is that's what we're there to discuss when we go back to the planning board.
right, that was the issue of the planning board. It was definitely, and I know it like Deerfield, if you hit the bottom there,
Straight up,
straight up,
2 to 1 at least, maybe steeper. It goes up about 60 feet from Deerfield.
I think we were okay with the water layout in the first time. I don't know, Pat, or if you remember, but
I think you were
my only
too.
concern was if you were changing the streets around
Nothing's moved. No water lines have moved, no utilities have moved.
It's not
There's no
gonna be-
sewer here, this is all
Right.
on-site septic systems.
So I would say that our original concerns were okayed in the Lincoln Road, Lincoln Estates.
Lincoln Estates.
Yes.
Are you making a motion?
I'll make it this motion to send to the planning board that after reviewing the current plan for Lincoln Estates, the water system has not changed, and the commission was satisfied with the, how it's laid out.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Say second.
I second that motion.
So we vote for it now?
I'm sorry.
You have any questions? You have any question, any other?
No, that's
Okay.
it.
We vote for that?
No, I'm all set now.
All set? Okay.
Yeah, so we can vote.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, aye.
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 All right.
So, 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Terry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you later.
That was quick.
We're waiting for this here. We are on the next one.
Thank you. We have the Abrams Group Water Rate Study. Now, so who put this on? Rick? Scott?
We would request the board to have it.
I did a couple of things, and also Steve did. I inquired about meter sizes, and I can show you that when you look at all our meters, 97% of them are either have the 5/8 or the 3/4, which in systems that bill by the meter size, they usually combine them. I don't see any reason to use meter sizes as an additional charge. Other places charge a per bill fee, and I actually was working on what it would cost for the MWA, and I just did it in two directions. One where there was a $20 a bill charge, and the other one, it was exactly like we have here. And I can show that if you're interested, but the effect is on level one, tier one, the rate, what the tier one folks pay goes up because you're lowering the rate, but then adding a flat $20 charge, or it could be what, an addition, some other charge. And our thoughts the last time we talked about that was that basically to pay part of the indirect costs, in that everybody gets the benefit of having a bill go out regardless of what's on it. Everybody gets the benefit of the collector collecting it. Every user gets the benefit of having, human resources is available for our water department people and so forth. And then keeping the remaining part of the bill based on your consumption, which is what we do 100% of the time at this point.
So it's like the per bill fee is like an inflation adjustment.
I think it's like, I know that when I've talked to Lisa, that we get some bills for very small amounts. And it's like, it costs money to process a bill, no matter whether it's coming to us, the electric company, or whatever, was that you shouldn't base everything purely on consumption. And I would say the majority of the systems, if you look at the MWA rate survey, it's you know, a lot of them, a lot of the customers, I don't know the percentage, but it's easy to find. You can even looking at some of the communities, you know, adjacent to us. I believe Canton does one as an example, where there's a fixed charge and then you're paying consumption rates.
Do you know what that is, what the fixed charge is in Canton?
I could find that out, and I picked 20 because it seemed to me it was something in that order.
So the one in the Norwood has a $8 monthly charge, but they have monthly billing.
Yeah.
So that's the,
Yeah, down the Cape, it's a governmental water system. It's $100 a year. That's if you use no water at all. That's just for the,
To have availability?
Yeah.
So the $20 a bill would be $80 a year.
Right. I can give you some examples. I figured the rates for 120 cubic feet, which is all Tier 1, 220, 2,200, which is in Tier 2, 3,000, which is in Tier 3, and 4,500, which is in Tier 4. And our present way, we're purely in consumption and not getting into the rates, but the rates were, the amount of money that had to be raised was identical. They were paying, $83.88 for the Tier 1. When you added the $20 bill, it went to $96.79. If you're in Tier 2, 167 went to 173. And the pattern sort of repeats itself, where when you're at the lower end of the tiers, the consumption, instead of playing a role of 100%, only is playing a role in part of it, and you're playing a fixed rate on the other portion.
So you think that if we had a rate for a fixed rate per bill,
Right.
that you think you would have to reduce the consumption side of the ledger, which I don't understand why would you bother doing that? I mean, if we're trying to get more money to cover increased capital costs and increased operating costs.
Well, the way we figure the rates is that you get the budget, and that's the amount of money that the department has to raise.
Right.
And we get earnings on in our investments of money that they're holding, entrance fees, testing fees, liens, principal and interest, penalties and interest, and the fire suppression assessment, which currently, for what's being proposed in FY25, which will be the rates that we'll be voting on, accounts for $385. That leaves $5,835,600, and that has to be spread out on the rates. The difference is you're still going to have to raise $5,835,600. The difference being you're going to get every customer, and let's say there's 8,000 customers, times the $20, that eats into that $5 million. Now you look at the $5 million and say, okay, that'll be figured on a consumption basis. So the rate can go down because you've got a fixed number in there, and it has a big effect on the lower water use, because for $20, you may not have been using $20
Right.
worth of water. That's the difference.
So we're not addressing the expectation of the increase that's going to be needed
No,
with
no.
our capital projects.
I mean, this is a
that we have.
spreadsheet I had, that's what I was working on. But then, when I saw this, I said, all right, I can just do the identical thing, only I'll make it so that the rate's lower, but everybody's paying $20. Like I say, it affects the lower water user because, $20 compared to the consumption is a bigger part. When you get to a customer is in Tier 4, you get still at that $20, but the rest of it is much bigger, as opposed to, that percentage is smaller for the big water user. You raise the same amount of money. That's always what we end up doing when we're determining what the rates are. And I think the logic is just that there are certain fixed things that are not consumption-based, and, that's...
Well, the town administrator put in a figure that we weren't thinking of, which was the $7 million for PFAS. And I was perceiving the per bill fixed, if you will, fee revenues to be the component to address the bump in the PFAS
You could do that.
component.
Right, not just PFAS, Mr. Chairman, but any capital improvement moving forward. So it's basically a capital improvement fee, like
Right.
many towns do,
Yeah.
in addition to whatever your rates are. So it's like a depreciation fund, I guess you could call it as well. As your pipes age, you know they're gonna have to be replaced. So sooner or later, that note comes due. So this method that Abrams had recommended lessens the blow, so to speak, because it's annualized and it's not, you don't hit you all at once.
That doesn't require us to raise the consumption figures that we were
Correct. It's a fee that would go on per bill.
generally
I don't-
projecting, yeah.
I believe
Some
Norfolk does
communities
it, Rentham does
separate-
it, Canton does it.
Yeah, some communities have a separate line on the bill calling,
And that's how it should be.
yeah, that you know it's going for capital.
So I wouldn't, I think if we're going in that direction, I mean, the $20 per bill, I think is putting us, along with Norwood and Canton and other towns, how they're addressing that particular, the increase in the capital, unexpected capital jumps, if you will.
Because it's going to become more
Not-
increasingly difficult to continue to raise your rates to cover the very expensive capital improvements you need to make. They're
Right.
just necessary improvements.
And the other thing that Mr. Fasanello eloquently introduced about looking at the top users at our last meeting to pick up the slack as we approach that MWRA operating bump as a way of addressing that without putting the burden on the normal residential users.
That's converse to what most towns do. Most towns reduce the industrial rate.
I understand, but most towns don't give their number one user a $20 million tax
Pilot program, yeah.
bump, free tax exemption.
Well, that aside, we're looking at ways to see what we can do with that upper tier.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just talking in general, I'm just suggesting to build the we don't need to look at reducing the per user rate of increase at this time. We're using this as really a way to address the PFAS thing that.
The only
was
thing
put
I
on
would
the
keep
budget.
you in mind is that, my example here, you still have to raise, for your, just to operate the $5,800,000, you would now, people would be paying that, and then there would be a capital fee on top of that. So it's-
We already have a capital in the whole tier structure, isn't it? So are we going to change the whole tier structure?
No, the capital is, most of the times we have smaller capitals, like we buy a dump truck or whatever, it comes out of retained earnings. Doesn't affect the rate at all. Where the capital projects that are included are, like replacing water mains, for $2 million where we borrow, and the borrowing debt is included in the money that we have to raise.
Beyond the use of retained earnings in either sewer or water, you have no capital funding plan.
Right.
Which is fine. With the
Which is
problem,
not fine.
The problem is, as of now, we are funding that through tier structure, and if you move that to your monthly fixed charges, that means it's a huge number. It's not a small number.
Right, but what you're doing currently right now with the rate structure that you have, all you're doing is funding your operations and maintenance expenses and the debt that you've currently incurred. You have nothing in that rate for future debt.
We had a 1.2 million of profit last year, and we did spend on.
Correct,
as
and that's
a-
why we use it for smaller
So
improvements
which
like
is-
equipment.
Which is always there, 20 to 25%.
But that, $1 million is in the scope of capital improvements that this water department needs to operate is negligible. $1 million is not a lot of money.
No, which is, if you have a big projects coming up, take example like $7 million of PFAS or something, and let's say another 7 million for MWRA, $14 million, we know that the rate structure will not work, isn't it?
Right.
But
the commission has been reluctant to raise the rates to, I'm going to say it, to where they should have been raised. Okay, you
But the
arbitrarily
projection-
and artificially keep your rate low,
no, it's not.
1.5%, 2%.
It's not
Yes, you
low.
do, because you don't
Matches-
fund for
it's higher than-
you
it's
don't
higher
fund
than-
for your future capital improvements.
I want to stop you there. It's higher than the Norwood rates. The rates are higher, so let's
It
not,
is.
let's
It's
not.
higher
go
than
into
Norwood,
rate-
but
rate
so
discussions.
is in our Eversource
Okay.
rate.
Okay, let's not go into rate discussion.
You're not
We are here
comparing
to-
apples to apples, you're comparing apples to pears.
Yes, so. we are
Norwood
here
and
to
Walpole are
discuss
not,
the
you
way
can't
to-
compare Norwood and Walpole.
way to
I'm
raise
sorry,
the more
Commissioner, you
capital.
cannot compare Norwood and Walpole.
Yeah, but we are paying more than
can't do
the town of Walpole is paying more for the water rates than the Norwood.
And we have a far superior water system.
That's the fact. So, Mr. Chairman, the thing is the monthly charge which was proposed by Abraham Group was about ready-to-serve charges. Ready-to-serve charges are basically very less, like 6 to 8. It does not talk about capital projects. The capital projects can vary every year, so you don't want to move the capital projects to the monthly fixed charges, because let's say you start $8 per month now, but next year you want $10, $12. You don't want that fluctuations. You want to have ready-to-serve charges to cover your cost of meter billing and your fixed cost. The capital improvements will come at every 4 or 5 years, so it should be handled separately, not as a fixed charge on the user. So that's one suggestion. The second thing is, unless we do a monthly billing, I don't think people will be happy to see $30 fixed charges or $50 fixed charges on their quarterly billing. So we have to think both of like having a monthly plan and having a bare minimum fixed cost to cover the your ready-to-serve charges, which are defined in this study.
Okay, so you're talking about monthly billing now again.
Monthly billing is the way to go, Mr. Chairman. Did you get my email?
So, I guess we could, away from the incremental, the annual impact of a fixed fee, which I think Mr. Fastenello agrees and Bill agrees, there should be a fee. No one turns the spigot on. Should be a flat fee, just for having that availability, having a bill, and having a water system that they can use whenever they feel like it. And if that's $100 or $80, then we can break that down. If it's quarterly, $80, that's $20 a bill. If it's a monthly bill, it's $8 a bill.
Well, we were a long ways
So-
away from monthly bills.
No, I know, but I'm just putting that in perspective. So it isn't, your example isn't too far away from what he's proposing. It's just the same discussion we've had before about quarterly billing versus monthly billing. But the amount, as far as the fixed fee, if you will, is the same, is essentially the same. It's philosophically the same, and numerically, comes out for annually to be pretty much the same.
Well, if we're talking about, just to make it more confusing, if we're talking about availability, if that's the reason why we're going to have, the infrastructure charge, that means the larger your pipe coming into your house, of course, it should be a larger amount of money you're paying for the availability, because you have that capacity to stress the system. That's one of the most important things. And it gets to a point, like I discussed the last time, about fire suppression, where you get to an area where you have to basically redesign the whole system to get the fire suppression. So I'm just throwing that out there now, that's all.
My only thought was that the systems that I've seen that have a per meter charge, I think, and Steve, correct me if you've seen something different, that usually the 5/8 and 3/4 are treated as the same. I'm just saying, with 97% of our meters out there are that first one, it's basically like a flat charge. Because there are, like a 1 inch, there's only 131, an inch and a half, there's only 8. It basically ends up being, if we had it spread across it, all the various meter sizes, it's an option, but if everybody's basically the same, and you want to go with flat rates, or, and I think that what Rick's bringing up, of a capital fee, in addition to a right to serve or being available, is fine. It's something that, we have a rate hearing coming up at some point. I don't know if we have time to come up with a new rate structure, or one wants to head in that direction in the future.
We're talking about semantics, Bill. It's not capital fee, it's the same thing. You can't charge someone a capital fee until they have access to the capital. So it's an access fee. You can call it whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know, Rick, it's like, instead of saying, I want to do this and I'll go borrow, I know I'm going to do it, so let me build up some money ahead of schedule. Is that what they do with it? That's my understanding.
Well, because we had mentioned that at our meeting about where's the underlayment for the PFAS figure.
Right, and I think we told you. I think we told you where we got that number.
Well, what was in the minutes, in other words?
Well, we told you we got that number. It was based on research that Steve did of local communities that have installed PFAS treatment.
Is it what was in the minutes?
I don't know what was in the minutes.
Well,
quite honestly, I didn't read your minutes.
Well, we haven't had those minutes out yet.
yeah.
I think it was
So
based
we don't
on...
have it in print, it was verbal.
But you still heard it, right?
No,
Okay.
Well,
So if it wasn't written, it wasn't done?
that's the way it goes.
Okay. Remember that, John.
well, Mr. Chairman, do we wish to change from what we're doing at this point? And if we are, I wouldn't suggest that we decide at this point. I would think that we'd want to give some thought and get a proposal. And it may be too late for FY25, which, the rates have to be set, and actually it would be better if we didn't wait till the last minute like we have in the past. That reason that we did that in the past is no longer valid. We could have a rate hearing, I think you have to post it for a month or 2 weeks or whatever.
Well, I think it's justified. I don't know, Rick's getting out of joint there about I'm just rhetorically saying what you were asking. How do you justify the figure? And I think we can justify the figure with the PFAS.
Just for the record, I'm not getting out of joint, I'm just speaking fact.
Well, we're trying to help you, but you want to argue,
I
so.
don't need any help, John. I'm good, you guys are the ones that need the help.
My gracious.
We're on correspondence too, and the discussion I seem would be focused on, do we continue the way we've done it, which is 100% consumption-based, or do we want to go something, the Abrams group suggested, and we've talked about some here, as a ready-to-serve, you could do it by meter, although I think that's, given the fact that almost everybody has the same meter, or a capital fund, which some have as a separate line on the bill, or some combination? Or, or do we want to stay with what we've been doing? And it may be a case of, for FY '25, since it's approaching rapidly, that we stay with it for this year with the idea of investigating for subsequent years.
Well, I mean, I'm in favor of doing the $20 a month, quarterly rather, for $80 a year as a capital fee, and I don't care about the title, how it's entitled or how it's described, because I know in my mind I understand perfectly what its function is, and it does deal with the unexpected increase in capital requirements that we need to build reserves for.
Well, the
enterprise fees funds for.
The administration back in January gave us proposed rates, and I think it was like 1% and what, 2 3/4 or 2/3 in the upper tiers. We could ask that they adjust their proposal to adjust those rates and include a $20 per bill charge, if that's what the commission wants.
Why are you adjusting the rates?
Well, then maybe say we want to just throw an extra $20 on everybody's bill.
Well, I think Mr. Mattson suggesting we're going to need the revenues, that we're going to need the enterprise funds for the PFAS.
I agree, I wouldn't do anyone's rates. But we just add the additional capital charge.
All right, so,
What's on the line?
yeah. So I guess that's
Well, that's what I've been trying to say. I don't think we need to lower the rates.
Yeah.
We just need the capital fund, because we have 2 figures that were put on this budget by the town administrator within the last 2 weeks, which was PFAS and the other MWA thing, which are a significant bump, and we have to collect the enterprise revenues to deal with those. So that's the name of the game. If you want to be part of the water system, whether you turn the faucet on or not, there's a fee required, because we have to upgrade to be able to operate.
I'm sure, if that's, are you proposing that with the rates that we have been presented to us, that we add a $20 fee, call it whatever we want? Make the motion, I guess.
A $20 per quarter
Per quarter, right.
fee.
I suggest that we do a study of surrounding town and see what bill charges they are doing it on monthly charges before we put a figure.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
We figure out what the other
Okay.
towns are
What
doing.
other towns are doing.
right.
Jarvis report says 75% of other communities are charging a capital fee. And then we also asked town administration to model it at different levels, what that looks like. So-
That's,
And we'll go with the favorite
Yeah.
town of Mr. Mattson, which is Norwood, and see how much they're charging monthly fees.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
Let's check those charges and then.
All right, so we're taking the action to do a study, and we'll finish the study before our rate hearing? When do you want to finish the study? By in a month?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can.
In 1 month, we should be able to
We all
figure out the
5 can
surrounding 10
send.
communities and ask. town
Who's going to do the study? Any commissioners want to volunteer to?
If the administration
Scott,
needs my assistance,
Can you have spare time to,
if the administration who'll be proposing the rates wants some assistance, they can ask
By the
me.
time it hasn't kicked in yet.
Yeah, so,
Opting out.
yes, I'm always happy to help in those things.
all right, so Terry, I guess we've decided to report back in a month with a survey, some kind of opportunistic survey of adjacent communities to get
So make that
a sense
our
of what
first meeting
the
in
range of,
April,
right.
yeah. So our
So
dates
can I
are,
ask a question? So the point was made, though, that most of the meters are 5/8 and 3/4.
Right.
Are we suggesting a flat for them? How are we handling the larger consumption? Because Pat made a point, when we did fire suppression, we did it based on the size. And I think we should stay with that model.
It was originally a flat fee, and then
Yeah.
I went and priced it. You can, the only thing I would say is there's so few that have, other than the small residential meter, if we want their...
The fire suppression, you can't justify. We can justify the consumption figures because, as Patrick points out,
Yeah.
one customer is using a well.
Yeah.
So it can't be based on a suppression system, it has to be based on volume.
Based on volume.
All right, well,
Correct.
I'm okay with that. We have 4 with a 4-inch, 5 with a 3-inch, 61 with a 2-inch, 8 with an 1.5 inch, 131, and the rest of the customers, it looks like it's 7,008, 950 basically have the smaller. That's fine. I mean, we can do that.
I don't follow you, Bill, but I'm talking about volume, I'm not talking about
Yes.
pipe size.
No, this is the size of the meter. It's what Pat's saying, you got a bigger meter, you can get more water through. You don't have to use a lot of water. but
Why are
you've
you
got
doing
the-
that? It's about who using the water. Why are you doing it on equipment? What if they don't, they can have the world's biggest equipment and use no water?
It's the same
So-
if you have a 12-inch water main going into your house.
That isn't the problem. The problem is whoever's using the water has to pay for the services of producing the water.
Yeah.
But having equipment isn't producing anything. That's just sitting there.
So are we saying...
It's a
that,
nullity.
Well,
Like if you're tier 1, it's going to be $10, tier 2, $20? Is that what
No,
you're thinking?
I'm not talking about the $20. We're talking about his thing about the top tier, having another tier
Yep,
for the high volume users such as Siemens.
I agree with that.
That's all we're talking. We're not talking about the $20 anymore.
Okay,
all right.
all right, just
So
those guys.
the meter
Okay.
size is it's volume rather than the meter size, which you're
It's
focusing.
volume, yeah. Forget the pipes and the meters. Okay, so we know what we're doing.
Yes.
Thank you. Now,
Number 3.
town meeting, and we have the MBTA article. This is a doozy.
It doesn't involve anything with water. I say it's a read and noted. If anybody has the thoughts, they are meeting on April 4th, and that's when one would attend.
Well, the only thing I could think of, and you took the words out of my mouth, really, is that would this create so many apartments and so many living units that we would have a problem supplying them? What's the capacity?
Yeah. The thing is written, not that you have to. It says in the area, you can, as a matter of right, have multi-family.
Would that ever come to a point where it would stress the whole system? That's the only thing I can think of. And otherwise, it's read and noted.
But I think a long time ago, we attempted to put a moratorium, and it was determined you can't do that unless you say, all right, you can do it for 2 years, and you got to fix whatever your problem was, and it was water. And I doubt we ever did it because, people were hoping that they could just stop development altogether.
Yeah.
And then when they found out, no, you can't. You could stop it for a defined period.
I think you're talking about the scope of the town of Walpole, though, and I think this is much bigger. Basically, this is this is a prototypical example of what's wrong when you only have a one-party government running your country. Because they passed, the MBTA and the governor's office should not have the power to bully the town of Walpole to change all its zoning. There's nothing in the Constitution or the regulations that account for that, other than politics.
And where is
There's nothing
Where
that
does it
says the
rent to water?
MBTA has
That's
the
what I
right to
think.
tell Walpole to change its zoning. And Bill, for people in the audience, they want to allow 15 or more housing units per acre. which in a 50-acre site that they've designated essentially means at least 1,000 new units of housing, and it could be double or triple that. That's the minimum, is 15. We have 1 acre zoning, 1/2 acre zoning, 20,000 square foot zoning. And these people are looking for, God knows what, 15 plus units per acre. And it's for 50 acres, and they're bullying the town of Walpole to make this a zone around our train station or our downtown. And the town of Milton, has pushed back, and I think other towns are too, and I think I can tell you that the Republican Party is going to help towns who want to push back against the Attorney General and against the governor and against the MBTA, which is really an NGO, a non-government organization. That they're not allowed to do this. It's against, there's no law that entitles them to do this. And I think most communities, unless they're really asleep, are going to have to push back against this because they just don't understand the potential impact. And I think what people think, this is the typical of Walpole, and I'm going to say this because they've been around 50 years in town government, so I'm going to say this. You know, in the past, we've done this. The state came out at one point and said, you're going to have an aquifer district and to mean the Clean Water Act. And we're going to be working on this, but this is what's coming. It's just like this MBTA thing. So Walpole, we rushed, and to be good citizens and comply, we went and we did an aquifer study for $1.1 million. And we no sooner finished the study, and the state came on and said, we're doing our own study. They did their own study, and they said, this is your aquifer. You forget what you did before and the $1 million you spent, because we're the state. And so towns that rush to comply often get caught in a mess if they go and change all the regulations or spend a lot of money, because the state, ultimately, there's something called unfunded mandates. When they make mandates, there's supposed to be funding that supports them. Otherwise, you have a legal reason why you can't do it, because they didn't give you the money to do it. And this zoning, again, we'll pass this along and let others argue it, but I'm just pointing out that this could have an impact on us because it could stress the system. If you have to put 1,000 more units minimum in downtown Walpole, Patrick, that's 16, 17%, 20% increase in our user base.
Well, we can put in that we're concerned about this zoning could have the effect of, causing our system to be overstressed.
And you know what?
If that's a realistic, I'd like to hear from.
Well, let me make another comment. The problem really in these smaller towns like Walpole, they think they're cute. They designed a place where all the buildings are built already. They went downtown where all the town hall, the Delaney's funeral home, they did all the downtown. That's their area. If they think the state's going to accept that, that's not, the state wants to put the migrant housing and the low-income housing on the railroad lines down in the suburbs. They don't want to be told, oh, we're filled up. We've got buildings on our area, so we can't have any more. We could give them this map, but they're going to throw the map back at us and say, give us 50 acres where we can build all this housing we want to build. That's what's going to happen. So you can't, it's not going to be as cute and as fast as they think. They're designing around it, and they're going to avoid the problem. I'm just saying. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to hear what Director of Public Works had to say about, how you envision this MTA zoning proposal vis-a-vis our water system.
Kind of difficult to speculate as to where these thousands and thousands of units that the chairman spoke of are going to go. First and foremost, I don't know where they would possibly put them. But we'll do as we do now. And when any large complex comes before the town, we handle them on a case-by-case basis. And if you simply do not have the water to provide to that development, then you take the proper channels and dispute the building of that complex.
And how do you feel about the infrastructure to supply the water?
I think the town of
That's another
Walpole-
factor.
The town of Walpole water system, the infrastructure as it sits today, is in good shape. There are improvements pipe-wise that need to be done. And again, just to the point of the discussion that we had previously about the capital improvement charge. We're going to have to continue with pipeline replacements. In terms of capacity and sizing of piping, we're in very good shape. And in terms of storage, again, I believe we're in very good shape.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Correspondence 4?
Okay, we done with that one? So, it obviously may not be as catastrophic as it could be, but we hope it isn't, that's for sure. We have Jarvis Farm future. We have a memo from Bill. This is something we discussed at our last, or 2 meetings ago, about somebody talking to Mr. Croak. And Bill talked to him.
Yeah. I'm suggesting maybe that when I talked to him, he said, oh, I got to, and it sounded like that he potentially has, logistics problems, but I thought, oh, a Zoom meeting, maybe we offer that. He didn't sound, he was perfectly happy to talk to me. And we chatted probably for 20 minutes, I would say. I asked him some questions, which I've sort of given an outline. I wasn't attempting to ask, but I'm just saying he's not opposed to talking. And I think if you offer a Zoom meeting as an opportunity, he may have, I don't know, maybe he's got young kids, got to pick them up or what, in certain, I don't know, I'm calling it logistics issues.
That's fine, we can offer something like that. I would just say in general, my observation is that there's not a plan for any real heavy or increased usage of Jarvis Farm. They couldn't really name any new sports or any activities other than baseball. And based on that, I'm losing my support for any kind of parking lot project. And I think that the more I thought about it, Adams Farm, the town spent $20 million in Adams Farm, and it's designed for heavy recreational and public use, and they don't have any big paved parking lot up there. They just have a regular old parking lot.
You're talking about in South Walpole, or where are you talking about?
Adams Farm, up in Norfolk.
Adams Farm, yeah, but that, I think it's not the same type of aquifer area.
Yeah.
That's the big thing here. We bought Jarvis Farm because they told us to, basically, our consultants. They said, if we could ever get that area, we should get it. So it came available, and we got it. And the recreation is, it's a secondary situation as far as I'm concerned, and since the taxpayers did not pay for the Jarvis Farm, it were the people who paid for that were the ratepayers. So it's a little bit different, and then, let's say, a town-owned property. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is, he's indicated that really the rec department's use, not weddings and fire walking and all that other pig roasts, whatever, but the recreation department use, 60 days a year for Little League Baseball. And he says that, and he acknowledges that the Route 1 baseball fields are available. They're not being used. I think the one I'm more familiar with is the one right in back of the old, at the Norfolk Aggie there, behind the Fisher Building, or and so on. So there are a couple ball fields that are not used on Route 1A. And he says the fields are too large.
This was talking about the one opposite the prison.
Yeah.
That's the ones he was
Oh,
talking, yeah.
they're too large. Well, there are other there's 2 ball fields at Norfolk Aggie as
You know,
well.
my point was.
So, well, let me finish, Bill. So, I think if there was storage there, it'd be okay. Well, so they could actually work it out. If there was a need to have more 60 days of baseball, to me, doesn't justify doing all kinds of heavy work at Jarvis Farm, trying to make heavier use of Jarvis Farm. If we want to have light use of Jarvis Farm and not have people potentially do something wrong there, let the walking paths and whatever be there, then why, we should do the opposite. We should discourage any, more than the baseball or whatever light use there is, and keep it the way it is. And not, as he says, if they have baseball there, we shouldn't have solar. So don't have solar there. I mean, why spend millions doing all these different things if we're really kicking ourselves in the shins by creating a usage that shouldn't be there anyway, according to you? So I don't, I think we just go the opposite direction, help them fix up that field, get them a storage facility, whatever, if they want to do more baseball. But the cricket thing, I happen to know about this. The Rentham State School has 1,000 fields. They have fields all over the place. There are cricket groups that play from Jamaica, from every country you can think of. So that has nothing to do with the town of Walpole.
Well, there was
These are
somebody
just,
who wanted at one point, and
Yeah.
it was suggested, and I think they found it was not really suitable based on the quality of the field. It's quite a bit rough.
So
My whole purpose, John, was just, we were saying, oh, we can't find it, whatever. I saw him, I talked to him, if he told me, hey, if you told me you can't do the Little League there, he says, we'll just move it elsewhere. And he said, they have a fixed budget. And, things have to sort of pay for itself if you want to, because somebody had wanted to do cricket there once before, I said if they did, he said, we could do something, but whatever, if it costs them to do whatever, I don't know what you'd have to do to set up a cricket field, the user would have to pay because they have a fixed budget. And, if they expand some program, it has to basically pay for itself.
Are they willing to help us build a parking lot? I mean, this is the point here.
I think he said it would, but they don't have.
But they should put it in their budget. That you can say, that's not an excuse, that's...
No, well, he's saying, I'm not,
He's gonna
if you're going to put a
he
parking
has
lot,
to-
he said that'd be fine. But he did not
So he's
say,
going to put it in his budget?
you should talk to him, because
Yeah, but he
I
should
don't
talk
think
to
you
all of us.
understand, if we wanted to put a parking lot, we just say, it's in our capital program. I was at the finance committee, I've gone there a number of times, they just want to say, how much do you want, here's what you're planning on spending, and, then basically they say, because you're paying for it yourself, if you think it's necessary, okay. And, it doesn't work the rest of the departments. There's a fixed limit, 2.5, and there's only so many dollars to go. If you add for the cost of parking lot, it's coming
Jeff
from
wants to
somewhere
say
else.
something. Go ahead, Jeff.
The parking lot was in the rec department's capital plan.
It was, oh.
Yes.
Okay.
We've all seen it.
Well, I didn't see it, and he didn't mention, he thought it would be a good idea if we did it, so.
Yeah, I see like a lot of conflicting thing here. He says that, the Little League baseball field, if we put solar panel, they cannot play. And then he's saying that the field in the 1A is very long. So do we need to hire a consultant to tell us, which games can be played, which games cannot be played
Can I
there?
just interject on who's using what? So the Little League, I'm still involved with Little League, so I know this. The ones that use the Jarvis Farm, these are the little guys.
Exactly.
The Pee-wee guys.
Yeah.
Okay? You're talking about Aggie, whether it be Old Fisher School or the ones up off Fisher Street. Okay, those are your AAA guys. Those aren't your majors. Majors are mostly down at, Restano and Burton, up on West Street there. Okay? The other little guys, they're playing at Boyden, they're playing at OPR, all those. There's a crunch for fields. I mean, we've got 2 weeks until the season kicks off, and those fields are gonna get used. You can't get field space on, you know,
Well, yeah, I have no problem. With 60 days of baseball there is wonderful, but I don't think that justifies $2 or $5 million solar
I
park
agree.
or a big expensive parking lot. I mean, I think, what do they say? You build it and they'll come. The more you make infrastructure at Jarvis Farm, the more use there's going to be, the more potential contamination there'll be, the more worse the conditions you don't want are going to happen. The lighter the footprint you make at Jarvis Farm, and the more you keep it natural, the better off everybody's going to be. There's a nice, I check it 3 times a week. I go up there on a random basis. There's rarely anybody there. There's a lady walking a dog or a couple of kids and their father going down that little walking bridge and stuff. But there's really, you know, it's very passive, and it's good that it's natural like that. I hate the more you develop it, the more people are going to want to come and have pig roasts and all these other, you know, do all these things there and there. That's where you're going to have the trouble. And then we're going to have to be responsible for the pond and dredging that. And we could spend millions up there, but I don't think that's priority, Pat.
Well, the
The
Sewer
million
Water
should be
Commission-
spent on PFAS and should be spent on the MWRA hookup so that we have water in the future for Walpole, et cetera. This is where the money should be spent.
If they're going to use Jarvis Farm, which I think they should use Jarvis Farm for certain things,
They're already using it.
but it's the vehicles that bother me. You can't have people coming there and parking with their cars dripping oils and lubrications into our aquifer. So you need to have a place to park, because even if you're walking your dog, you're bringing your dog to the Jarvis Farm, and you need to park your car someplace where it won't pollute our aquifer.
I now wish that I had not sent this. My only thought
See
was, you
what you
could talk
did
to
there.
him, and the thing, if you really want to talk to him, I think he might go with a Zoom meeting. And if we don't want, I know what future, you will not see another correspondence from me related to that, because we have gone so far off the track, it's unbelievable, so.
Well,
I suggest we go to correspondence 5.
I'm curious, though, Jeff, since you're familiar with the baseball, I mean, I don't recall, on the Pee-wees, I don't recall that there's a big gallery of people watching a baseball game.
no, so there's usually,
It's
if I
minimum number of
recall,
cars.
there's 2 games being played at a time, because they've got the 2 diamonds up there. So that's 12, 13 kids, you know, times 4, and then the associated parents and coaches. And I think there's 3 or 4 sets of games, and then it's done, it's gone. And that's your Saturday morning. You know, it's like Mile High Street with the soccer. It's, you know, packed and then it's nothing, so.
So I mean, we can just continue the thinking. I'm not saying to cancel the parking lot thing, but I just don't see us doing things to try to overdevelop this. Obviously, there are a lot of good recreation venues now for the town, and we're fortunate we have a nice new rec complex and so forth. So maybe, you know, we can save Jarvis Farm from any high utilization.
Sean, if we want to belabor this point, the MWRA at Quabbin had the same feelings you had in the beginning. Let's leave this pristine, let's keep everybody out, let's have this thing completely non-used, except for being a watershed. And slowly but surely, what they realized was that if they allowed passive use of that property, that things didn't happen inside the property, because there were hundreds of eyes and ears inside the property who would report strange things going on. So they changed their rules. And now at Quabbin, you can walk through there and you can do limited boating if you have the right kinds of safeties. So the whole thing's changed, the whole idea. Use it and guard it.
Okay, to be continued. Thank you. All right, we have the water pump data here.
Jarvis Farm, right?
No, we have a Jarvis Farm application.
Oh, we had, that's right, so, hold on.
From the granddaughter of the
Yeah,
original owner.
bridal shower and a pig roast.
Pig roast.
That's what it says.
All right.
If allowed.
If allowed. It's a long one, too. It's a 6-hour pig roast.
That sounds interesting.
Open to the public?
You're allowed to go and inspect.
There we go.
Say I'm the taste tester from the
Taste
water
test.
department.
Love it.
And it seems that her family owned Jarvis Farm at one point.
Yep.
The person who's asking for the,
Jean Allard.
yeah.
We've talked to her once before, actually. She had another proposal one time, a reunion proposal, then they canceled it.
I'd
She
make a
came in.
motion to approve either allowing the pig roast or the catered, whichever.
So is there a second?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I'll second it.
What was it?
He moved.
Motion to approve allowing either the pig roast or them to do a catered event.
Okay, moved in second. Any other discussion? All in
I
favor?
noticed one thing, it didn't say how many vehicles.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
They're walking in.
Parking at Dunkin' Donuts.
All right, that's my point.
4 bus loads,
60 units.
65 attendants. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 5-0.
Abstained.
Excuse me, 501?
401.
Can't be.
401, excuse me, 401. And we have to sign this apparently, so I'll pass this around. Get this done now for Terry. Pass that to... Okay, then we have the water pump,
No, you don't.
water pump memo.
Pat, you want me to sign for you?
On the abstain line, okay?
Any comments on water revenues?
It would have been in the package earlier, but...
Or, excuse me, water-
Too late, so
Water pumping first.
this is just revenue.
What something
We
for
got the
temporary
water pump in
use?
there also. don't we?
The collection made, this was delayed.
Yes, I know, yeah, that's right.
Okay, everybody good with that, with the pumping?
Yeah, I think January and February numbers looks okay, although less than the 2023. We are in black, which is like 99%,
97 or above.
97.
I have a technical question for the town people, Scott or whoever. When we get these types of rains we're having now, where it's completely saturated, and it probably is down at especially in Mine Brook, once you get the surface that's really wet, how does that affect the wellhead? Because now you have surface water directly going into the wellhead. Or you don't?
No.
So tell me how that works. It's like the flooded well field. What happens on a flooded well field?
Scott can tell you, we don't have any wells influenced by surface water.
You have what?
We don't have any wells that are under the influence of surface water.
Right, our wells are not under the influence of surface water.
Okay, so
In both of these aquifers is an underlying level of peat, particularly in Minebrook, that prevents it from happening.
So they're basically capped to the outside water, right? For the
Now, there's
groundwater?
groundwater recharge from other areas, but not in the immediate vicinity of those wetlands, like one would think.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. And people were asking me that, and I had no idea if we're pumping the surface water too.
No, we'll never admit we're pumping surface water.
So
Because we'd have a lot of water then.
when you say peat, what kind of, it's not clay, it's peat?
It's organic material of underlying levels of peat.
Must be
In some areas,
compressed.
it's like 5, 6 feet thick. Actually, that's what saved this aquifer back in the day when they had the oil contamination. There's an underlying layer of peat in this area. It prevented the oil and the gasoline from getting into the groundwater.
Well, if you remember back, one of our consultants, maybe 40 years ago, said that if we punched holes in the bottom of the Neponset River, we could recharge the aquifer there. Do you remember this?
Right.
Yeah.
When they did the pump test for Neponset 1 out back, it was determined that the well was not influenced by the Neponset River because the Neponset River lies on ledge.
That's correct. But one of our consultants suggested that we do that.
Fracture the
And
rock.
I was just curious if that idea is passé now.
You really don't want to do that because you don't want to treat groundwater as a surface water supply. It's a totally different treatment technique. You may get away with it in Minebrook, but it wouldn't work down at this end.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody good with that? All right. We have the revenue numbers.
$4.9 million for water and $4.2 million for sewer until February 29th.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you. Old business, MWA water connection. We have any reports on that? Rick?
So Weston and Sampson is currently coordinating a meeting with Stantec, who is Norwood's Engineering that did the memo that you guys saw at your last meeting. I'll let you know when that's going to take place. It, in all likelihood, is going to be via Zoom or remotely because of the number of people that may be potentially involved. So what we're hoping to get out of that meeting is, first and foremost, find out why we need to do so many off-site improvements in Norwood, or improvements in Norwood that far away from the Mylod Street site. Secondly, to see if there's a more efficient and cost-effective and frankly, quite frankly, less expensive improvements that we can do in Norwood to facilitate the MWRA connection. Weston and Sampson did meet with the Department of Conservation and Recreation regarding the MEPA process, so that's underway. I'm sorry, not the MEPA process, the interbasin transfer process. So they're in the process of filing that paperwork, necessary paperwork. They also need to do an alternative analysis for the state. And I believe what that is why do you need to connect to the MWRA? Do you have any other sources in your community? So honestly, we're going to have to answer, yes, we do. Okay, so these are things that are going to be looked at. One thing I can tell you is that the DEP and the DCR, in all likelihood, are not going to be concerned what it's going to cost to bring any well online. They don't look at that. They just want to see if you have a viable source and as to why you're looking to supplement your water supply with another source. Beyond that, there's really not much more to report. I believe Weston and Sampson will probably attend your next meeting, which I believe is scheduled for the 25th.
When you say that, even though that may be the biased opinion of the MWRA or what have you, or the DEP, I think we should give the rationale of why the Minebrook hadn't been developed and what its limitations and economic barriers are. The rationale why it hasn't.
Economic barriers are one thing, John, but I think we have a valid argument in that it's located in the stress basin,
Yeah.
as are the other sources. So that's a saving grace, I think. And it'll bolster our argument to connect to the MWRA. However, it is a viable source. I think the statement was made that we don't know what we got. We do know what we have. That well has been pump tested twice, stabilized both times, and it'll pump 1 million gallons of water per day. So it is a viable source, very expensive to construct, restrictions with the wetlands, and it would be, quite honestly, I think it would be a permitting nightmare in comparison to the other options. Now, that being said, if you remember, you cast your memory back to when we were seeking the appropriation, it was to investigate alternative sources of water, not just the MWRA. Okay, so I think we have an obligation to the ratepayers and the citizens of town to go ahead and do that. Not necessarily with Mine Brook 4, but we need to start looking at satellite wells in the area of the existing wells. Washington 5 and 6 are two that come to mind. These would be located within 100 feet of the existing sources, designated as satellite wells, so the permitting is somewhat less cumbersome.
Okay. Well, why wouldn't you look at Mine Brook? I mean, what, if that's, we already have
wouldn't
data. Why wouldn't we present that in the argument?
Why would we or wouldn't we
Wouldn't we?
present Mine Brook 4 in the argument?
Yeah.
To make an argument to develop it, you mean?
To have full disclosure that it had been investigated and it isn't necessarily an economic option as far as the town goes.
I think they would look at it, Wright Pierce has told us that it would be about $4 billion. About 20 months ago, they had $3.8 million to activate Mine Brook 4. I think you really have to focus on that it's a stressed basin, because if you're comparing $4 million versus what it's costing the MWA, I think they would say, well, I don't want you to do an interbasin transfer. You got the water, and not only that, it appears to be cheaper. So, but you can't come up with a figure about it being a stress basin, and that's not our word. When they did the SWIMI, which was Sustainable Managed Water Initiative or something like that, they were the ones who identified both of our sources as in stressed condition, and they categorized it 1 through 5, 5 being the worst, and both were a 5. So, I mean, that you can say is a reason from an ecological standpoint that you would want to go with like the MWA rather than further stressing an already overstressed basin.
Well, you're saying exactly what I would like Leah to say. That's what.
And she knows that.
Yeah.
The debate of Mine Brook 4
I want to make sure
has been
that's
around.
included, just what he said.
Right, the debate of Mine Brook 4 has been around since the early 70s,
Yeah.
late 60s, early 70s, to the point where the town was looking into acquiring property rights from Penn Central Railroad for the purposes of running a water line to the Mine Brook treatment plants.
Who owns that rail line now?
MBTA does. State does. They bought it for $26 million. It's the Framingham secondary line. And it's maybe 2 years ago.
Is the state DOT?
I don't know whether it's the MBTA or the state, but it is under public ownership. And the thought behind it was, one, it's used for rails, or freight now, but that they would have an alternative if the line that goes through Providence and Sharon or whatever, Mansfield, if somehow you couldn't use it you could funnel your trains it would come in with the Foxborough line, go right over and up to Framingham. It cuts across Route 9 in Framingham, that line. But yeah, I think they paid $26 million. I know they replaced the rails with welded rails. I mean, they spent some money on that line.
So that, would that allow for an easement to go up that line instead of going through horizontal drilling through all those swamps and everything?
Well, the problem is that it's built on a swamp, and it's like they just piled, soil in the ballast. You walk, 15 feet in either direction on most of the, in that area, you're in the swamp. So it's really not right now, there'd be sections that you could not drive a vehicle without, having one set of wheels real close to the water in the swamp.
So that's where we're at with the MWRA connection. So, depending on what happens with the meeting and what we get from Norwood, we may request that they look at the other site as we discussed, maybe possibly Lee and Merck, if it's less expensive. But we'll see what happens with the meeting first and foremost before we take that approach.
Would Bill and I be able to participate? Is that a Zoom meeting?
Yeah, I believe Commissioner Fisher had requested that the entire board be involved if we're going to have
good.
something like
Well,
this.
that's fine. Yeah, if you can arrange that.
But via Zoom, yeah, we just have to make sure that it was a posted meeting.
Would it be helpful? I guess we could post a meeting for the board as Zoom instead of having to come here and try to do Zoom from this. Or we could go to meet
Yeah,
at
so
town hall.
once the meeting date is set, we'll let you know. Okay.
How far out are you looking?
I would hope within the next 2 weeks, something may take place. It's just a matter of trying to coordinate with everybody. That's it.
Thank you. All right, then the next thing is, again, Jarvis Farm. Anybody got that?
We can skip. We can skip.
We all good on that? All right, then meters to cash report, Pradeep?
Yeah, I think we can skip that for this one. We have pumping numbers and the financial numbers. Looks okay.
Okay. Any other business before the commission? There being none, call for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, 500.